Hello everyone. I wanted to take just a few minutes and go over the week 4 assignment, which has to do with our VDI, the virtual desktop interface, and how to create the project, which basically involves using Microsoft Visual Studio as well as Microsoft SQL Server. So what I did here is I pulled up the login page for this new VDI. This is the URL if you want to copy it. And I'm just going to log in, and I already have the information saved to my computer, so I'm just going to log in right now. Once I log in, I have access to all these apps, and the one that I need to access for this exercise is the Student Lab number 2. Right, so I click on that, and in a few moments it's going to open it up. It tells me that it's being blocked, so I click on it to force open it, and now I'm accessing my virtual machine. Now it does take a few seconds to open up, and then it's going to log me in. So just be patient depending on your connection, of course, of the internet. Mine is not the fastest connection, so it will take a few seconds. And when the virtual desktop starts to come up, it will seem as if it had loaded, but it's just going to keep kind of like flashing for a few seconds or every few seconds, and eventually it's going to give me all the applications that I have access to. Again, the two main applications that I need to use are going to be Microsoft SQL Server and the Microsoft Visual Studio. Now, if you log into the Module 4 and you pull up the instructions, this is the document that tells us what to do for the week 4 instructions. And basically we're going to be using an ASP.NET application that uses MVC, which is the model views and controllers type of application. And we basically need to create, the application already works. You can log in. We have to create a new login, but we could, right off the bat, we can see customers, we can search customers, and what we need to do next is we need to add an interface to allow us to search for products as well. Okay, and the existing solution is going to be called IT665.sln, and you can download that from the Module 4 instructions. So let's take a look at there we go. Okay, so the interface is coming up. It looks as if it's up, but it's not fully up yet. But here you have some information regarding your interface, like for example your computer name, and we will be using this so we could log into our SQL Server. So I do see now there's an icon here for SQL Server, and it's one thing you might notice is that the instructions for this assignment are a little bit outdated, because it tells us, okay, see how now it's kind of flashing again and some icons are disappearing. In a few more seconds, there we go, more items have opened. So we're going to be using Visual Studio 2017 to code our application. The application already exists. We just need to download the zip file. And this is the SQL Server Management Studio, which is number 18. The instructions say, I think it's 2017, but we will be using 2018. Now, if I open up from within my VDI, if I go to my login screen for my SNU, so it's learn.snu.edu, I'm going to log in eventually when it pops up. Okay, log in. Here's my class, and then I'm going to go to learning module number 4, because that's where we are. And then scroll all the way down to the bottom. So for the 4-2 assignment, click on this link for the rubric. And here we have a few links. The first one, or the one I wanted to show you first, is this excuse me, the Adventures Work Student App zip file. So we need to click on that and then download it and save it to somewhere on your computer. Now this is saving it, or we want to save it on our VDI, okay, not on our local computer. And then the AppWorks instructions are this PDF document that I have opened right now. Okay, but back to here. Instead of doing open file, I want you to go to where the the file is in the directory structure. So click on that, and that opens up the zip file. Now I already downloaded it earlier today, and here is the other copy. Now this is a zip file, so you can't really work with a zip file until you extract all the files in it, and then you can start working with it. Basically all you have to do is just right click on it and then say extract all, and that's going to say, well, what do you want to extract it all to? Just for example purposes, I'm going to leave it at downloads, but you can click on browse and then, you know, put it anywhere you want on your computer. Alright, I put it in my documents folder, which I suggest you do the same as well. Alright, so I'm not going to unzip it now because I already unzipped it, so I'll cancel out of that. So if I go to my documents folder, here is the unzipped directory. Okay, so it's IT665 Adventure Works _ student _ app, and if I double click on it to go into it, here's another folder. Double click on it, and here we have some files and folders. The .sln, this is the solution file. This is called Visual Studio Solution File, and basically a solution is a group of projects. So it could have one project or it could have multiple projects. And if you go into the IT665.student folder, there will be a project file, and this is it, IT665.student, and it's, you can see here, it's a Visual C# project file. C# is the programming language. With Visual Studio, you can create, you know, projects of all kinds of languages, including including Microsoft programming languages like VB and C# and F#, or also non-Microsoft application programming languages like Java, and much more, of course. So this is our project file, and if I go back again, this is the solution file. And then this setup here, this is, as you can see, it says Microsoft SQL Server Query file. We're going to use this file in a moment to create our, or it's going to create basically two tables for us in SQL, and it's going to populate the data as well for us, so we could create users with hashed passwords. When I say hashed, meaning that they are encrypted, and we'll see that in just a moment. Okay, so that's what happens when you extract that zip file. It creates this folder for us, and this folder has a subfolder and then this directory structure. Okay, all right, let me pull this up. Okay, so if you follow the instructions line by line, step by step, it's basically say, okay, let's open up our Visual Studio solution file. So I'm going to go back to my VDI, and let's see, go back to my folder. All you need to do to open up the solution file, which is going to open up in Visual Studio, is to just double click on it. So I'll double click on it. It's going to open up Visual Studio 2017. Now Visual Studio is the 2017 version, while the SQL Studio Manager is 2018. Alright, so the project opens. Now I've opened this project before, so that's why it opens up with a lot of open files for me and stuff like that. But the first time you run Visual Studio on your VDI, it will actually ask you to do a few minor setups, like, you know, how do you want the interface to look like? Do you want dark? Do you want light? And other setting questions. You don't see it here because I've already, you know, ran through these steps myself just like an hour ago or earlier today. And I also have you know, a lot of the folder structure played with, meaning that I opened them, I modified them, and again I did everything based on exactly what this document is telling me. So when you open up the Visual Studio using this solution file, you will be greeted with a few things. I actually did not get I did not have to update the NuGet packages, so you can skip these steps. I don't think it's going to ask you for it, at least for now. And then we're going to come down to running the setup SQL file that I told you about moments ago. Okay, but right out of the get-go, you can basically go back to my VDI. In Visual Studio, you can click on this play button, okay, and this is going to run the application for you locally so you can test it out. All right, so even though I did make code changes, you can, once this loads up for you successfully, all you have to do is just basically click on this run button, and it's going to start loading your application for us. and it opens up in a browser because it's a web application. And you can see here that it's loading, and there we go. We get this. Okay. Now again, I have pre-populated information because I've already ran through this application multiple times. But at least you can see that right out of the get-go, the login web page basically loads correctly. All right. So I'm gonna close this, and then back to my Visual Studio. I'm gonna stop my debugger. So stop debugging. All right. Now I'm gonna also open up my SQL. Just minimize this. There we go. So Visual Studio 2017 I opened here, and then I'm going to double click on my SQL Server Studio Management. So double click on it. All right. And when it loads up, this is the connection screen. You need to connect to some sort of a server. Now, if nothing is entered here, or if something is entered and you try to click on connect and it fails, then just go back to your desktop, and this is the host name that you need to connect to. So type this information right in this field here. Okay, and then you don't have to change anything else. So my server name currently says, well, it ends with A015, and if I look at my host name, it's A025. So I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to modify the value to be 25, and let's connect. And there we go. All right, so this is SQL Server, and you can see there are databases, options, security, and so on. We're going to be playing just mostly with this databases, so I'm going to expand it. And again, one of the differences between the instructions is that it says AdventureWorks 2012 when now we are using 2017. Okay, so just be aware of that, and we will have to make some code changes to update from 2012 to 2017. So I'm going to expand this database, and under this database, the AdventureWorks 2017, I have some tables. I'm going to expand tables, and there's just basically a slew of tables here. All right. And by default, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, it stops at sales. All right. So we need to create, or we will run a SQL file now that's going to create 2 more tables for us, okay, for security reasons, which contain the login information. And some other tables we're going to be working with is production.product, as well as person.person. Okay. Now we're not going to use person.person today, but we're going to be using it, I think, next week. I mean, in week 7. And then production.product is basically, well, if you want to look at any database, any table in a database, just right click on it, and then click on select top 1000 rows. And basically, this is the table we're going to be working with, table of products. Okay, and for people, which are customers, I said it's person.person. So if I right click and I say select top 1000 rows, it returns, names of people and first name, last name, and so on. All right. Okay. Now I'm going to open up a new query, or actually you can just basically click on open file. And then navigate to this setup file. Okay, so the setup file is right under the IT665-student folder. And you double click on it. Basically, so this is where the first update we have to make. Right now, these instructions are pretty outdated. So you can see here that it says use. So it already has a red underline because it says this database does not exist. So I just need to change the 2012 to 2017, and the red line disappears. Okay, and you don't need to concern yourself with exactly all the code here, although you can of course look at it. But all the way down here is basically we're going to be creating 2 new tables, and I'm going to populate these 2 new tables with a few users. There's going to be an admin user, there's going to be a customer user. Now the instructions tell us to also add a product user. Okay, and if you notice here, let's go back to, oh, you can't see it. Okay, but when we create these tables, there's going to be a, well, this is the username, and then there's going to be a password, and this password, as you can see, is encrypted, and another word for it is it means it's hashed. So hashed basically means it's using some sort of encryption to encrypt this password. And then the last value is a salt. As you can see here, salt. So salt, basically, again, you don't have to concern yourself too much with it, but this is just a safe way of, when you encrypt your password, we don't just encrypt it, but we also make it confusing by adding a salt. So just like you add salt to food to make it better, we also add salt to a hash or to an encryption algorithm to make it more complicated so people cannot hack it. All right, now this is not the password, so it's not like I can copy this password and paste it into my password field and that will let me in. So what I need to do is, according to the instructions, I need to pull up this path, which again, localhost : port name, and then /security /get hash password equals, and then I'm going to give it a regular, English letter password, which then would return for me a encrypted version of the password plus a salt to be used with this hash. Okay, so hash is my encrypted password, and then salt is what's going to even confuse not confuse the encryption, but make it more complex by adding the salt value again to the beginning or to the end of the of my password. Okay, so the hash and the salt will be used when we log into this application. So let's pull this up and let's play around with it. Go back to my VDI. Go back here. Actually, let me run it again. And just like it said, it's security slash, and I already have it pulled up here, but it's security / get hash password equals. Okay, so I'll click on that, and I'll make a password. Now, to make it simpler, my password for admin user will be admin, my password for customer user will be customer, and my password for the product user will be product. Okay, so again, this is extremely, it's against all security best practices, but just for our own, assignment example, I'm just going to make it very simple. So I'm going to create a password called admin, and I'm going to hit enter. So now here I've created a encrypted version of admin, and it gave me a salt. So what I need to do is just basically copy, make sure that you copy this correctly. I'm going to copy this. I'm just going to right click and say copy. There we go. And then I'm going to go back to my SQL, and for my admin, I'm going to change this and paste it. And then do the same for the hash, I'm sorry, for the salt. Go back here, copy this, and then back here, and paste. Okay, so now I'll do the same for customer, but I won't show you. I'm just going to skip through it, so not to waste your time. Okay, so now I've updated the admin user with a encrypted password and it's salt, and also for customer I ran the here that same thing for customer using the customer password, and I got the updated hashed password as well as the salt. Okay, now I could run this as is now, even though I need to add a third customer called or a third person called product. I'll do that in just a moment as well. But I'll run this as is just to show you that we can now log in with this information. So once you have this updated correctly, and again, don't forget to, all the way up here, to change the 2017 to 2012 to 2017. Once all the changes are made, which that's all we have to do here for now, is click on execute. And when this happens, this is always good, there are no errors. But now if you do a refresh and then scroll down, okay, let me actually click on the database and then do a refresh and then expand tables, scroll down, All right, there we go. So now we have two more tables that were added by running this script here that we didn't have before. So security user, if I right click on it and then show the top 1,000, even though we don't have 1,000, it basically has two records, which is all that we added so far. We have an admin username and we have a customer username. And these are the hashed passwords, and these are the salt that go with it. And then for user role, because it depends on if you log in as an admin, you will have some roles or some access to web pages, and if you log in as a customer, you can have a different access to different web pages. So if I right click on user role and expand all my records, I only have 3 records. And again, this is all really based on this script that ran. Okay, let me go all the way down again. So here it created basically an admin user, and for the admin user it gave him 2 roles. It gave him a customer manager role and a product manager role. But for the customer, it only gave him a customer manager role. And we see that by going to this table, which again is the user role. You can see that we have three user roles. User ID is the column from the user table. So user ID 11 is basically the admin. So if you go back to here, here's my admin user, and his user ID is 1. So that's why user ID is a foreign key that basically ties this table to the other table. So number 1 is admin, and admin gets customer manager role, and admin gets product manager role. As for my user ID number 2, which is customer, if we go back to this table, here is customer and his user ID number 2, and he only gets customer manager access role. All right. So now if I go back to here, and let me stop this, and well, actually let me run it again. And for the username, I'm going to type admin, and for my password, I'll type admin. And now I'm logged in. So when I log in, now this is, I have all these links here for the navigation. I have home, I have search customers, I have search products, I have logout. When you first do this, you're not going to see search products yet, but I do have it here because again, I've ran through this before and I've updated the code. So you will only see home, search customers, and logout. So if I click on logout, it takes me out. If I log in again by submitting, it takes me in. If I click on home, it takes me to this home page where I am at already. Now if I run on search customers, which this is already built for us, it's asking me to type in part of a last name, and it says down here, for example, SMI will match Smithers and Smith, but not Jasmine. So it only looks for the first few letters. So if I type SMI, just for example, and I hit submit, I basically get results of everyone, that all my people or all my customers that their last name starts with SMI. Okay, so this should work right from the get-go. What we need to do is everything that we do for customers, we need to do it also for products. All right, so customers has to do with the person table, products has to do with the production.product table. Okay, so I need to modify this to basically the script to also add a product login user as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and modify this, and I'll be right back. Alright, so far what I did, I basically just took the last 4 lines, I copied them, and then I pasted them down here, and then I updated anywhere I saw customer, and I made a product. And then again, this is customer, I made a product. This is customer manager, I made a product manager. Now I need to create a new hash as well as a salt for it. So I'm going to go back to my web page, and here I'm going to change this to product. Oops, make sure you get the spelling correct. Okay, so it generated this hash. I'm going to copy that. Now make sure that you copy it without the double quotes. Copy, and let's go back to here. Paste, and then back for my salt. Copy and paste. Okay. Now I'm going to run this script again. So I'm going to click on execute. Again, some things ran. And if I just click on my database and then refresh it, and then expand my tables again, and then in my user role, now I should have my product in there. There we go. So here's my product user with his hash and the salt. And if I go to user role, they should only have access to product manager. There we go. So user ID 3, which is product, now has a user role of product manager. Okay. All right. So the instructions now tell us that every file that we have to modify will basically have some sort of a green code that says here is where you do the implementation. Okay, because we need to basically copy a lot of stuff from the customer and then implement it on the product side. And oops. And basically they tell us here every single file that has to be changed. So number one, we have to change the underscore layout.c shtml file, which is under views shared. So if you go to your VDI again and in Visual Studio, okay, now I can stop running my application for now. So under views and then shared, here's the layout CS HTML. Double click on it and it's going to open up for us. Let me close this for now. All right, so see this line here? Product implementation to do. Add product manager link. Okay, so now I've already added it, as you can see here. But what you need to do is basically copy. Again, you just need to copy it from, I think the instructions tell you exactly. Add search products to the horizontal. Okay, well, it doesn't tell you the instructions here, but we need to add a product manager link. Now up here we have the customer manager link. So all you have to do is just highlight these few lines, copy them, and then right under here paste it. And that's what I did. So I should just give you some space. There we go. So I copied these few lines and then I pasted it down here. And then I changed whatever I see customers, I made a products. Okay, customer became product, and the is product, well, up here it says is customer manager. I changed it to is product manager. All right. When you do that, that's what's going to change the navigation bar. Where it said home, search customer, search product, log out. It's gonna, before it didn't have this, but now it will have it. Okay, so that's the first step. All right, now it's always good to, every time you make a change, like this one, this is change number 1, is to run your application and make sure that you do see the change has been implemented or not. Okay, so that's number 1. Now number 2, we need to change product search. So it says create product search models to provide data to the product search view. So it wants us to edit this exact file. It tells you where the path is. And it wants you to hold the product search results, and then this basically is a copy paste modify of the same exact file but on the customer side. Okay, so if you go to model search, so here's models, here's search, and then we have product search and product search results. Right now it's product search, and it wants us to model it exactly like customer search. So open up product search, then open up product customer search, and well, the first time you open up product search, this is not going to be there. These lines are not there. It's just going to have this green line which says product implementation to do, create a product search model, and use the customer search.cs as a guide. Okay, so again, open up the customer search CS, which is this file, copy all that. All right, and then go back to your product search CS and then paste it. All right, now once you paste it, just make sure again that you change everything that has to do with customer and change it to product. I like to go through it line by line, although you can do a find, search, and replace, basically changing customer to product, but I like to do it line by line. So here it says part of product name, because before it used to say part of search name, and then part of product name. Again, this used to be search name, so I changed that. And then part of product name, again, I've changed that. And now here, just make sure that this used to say partial customer name. I changed it to partial product name. Now, of course, be very careful with spelling, because spelling has to be exactly correct, because we're going to be using this somewhere else. All right? So that's what I have to do in the product search page. Let's go back to our instructions. So we've done the product search page. Now we need to also do the product search results.cs page. Okay, so that was in the same place. Here is product search results. Double click on that. And here's customer search results, which we're going to base it on. So again, from the customer search side, just copy all that. Okay, copy it, and then go back to your product search results, and then paste it here, right under where it says implementation to do. Now when you paste it, notice here that these names are specific to the customer table. Customer table does have a first name, does have a last name, does have a business entity ID. But for product search, once you paste it in here, you need to change the values to whatever the columns are in your table. So if you go back to your database table, and I told you that for the product, it's production.product. Okay, and if you again open it up, all right, so if you right click and then say select top 1000, so now you see that this table has product ID, name, product number, and so on. So I want to return just the first three columns. Okay, I don't care about the other data here. So I need to return product ID, I need to return name, I need to return product number. Now I also need to know what data type they are. So product ID looks like numbers, so it's integers. Name looks like letters and numbers, so it's a string. And product is also letters and numbers, so it's a string. But if you want to take the guessing out of it, then you can just basically expand the actual table and then expand the columns. And now it tells you product ID is an int. Name is a nav varchar, which basically is a string, and product number is also n varchar, which also is a string. Okay, so when we go back to our code again, make sure that you type it up as I have it here, because that's how it should look like. Product ID is the column name, and you make sure that the data type is int, and then we have name column, and it's a string type. And then we have product number, which is a string type. Okay, so that's what you need to update for the product search results table file. Okay, back to our instructions. So we've done A, we've done B. Okay, let's go on to the next page. And then it says we need to add search controller actions to respond to product get and post results requests. So again, we need to edit the search controller, add a product method. This will be a copy paste modify of the customer method, and be sure to use the requires role attribute to require product manager. So let's do this first part here, which again is search controller. And if you go to our code, under controllers, here is search controller. Okay, so double click on that. Now when you open up that file, it has everything that has to do with customer and customer manager and customer method and everything. Okay, what you need to do is oh, okay, it's a good thing I saw this here. This is a connection string, okay, but this is just a name of a connection string, and this name is found in the web config. Now every web application has a configuration file called web config, so make sure that you open up your web config file, and in the connection string section where you see it's called Adventure Works 2012, it's okay to leave this name as is, because this name has to match, where is my controller? Oh, there it is. Has to match this name here. Okay, so even though we're not using 2012, we're using 2017, this is just a label. So just make sure that this label here, again, this is system.web.configuration.web configuration manager, .connection strings, and then this label has to equal exactly this label here, which it does. So I'm not going to change it. It's fine to leave it as is. But what has to change is this value here, database equals Adventure Works 2017. This, again, because I changed it already, this used to be 2012. I mean, when you open up your file, you're going to see 2012 here. So make sure that you update this to make it 2017. All right. So back to search controllers. If you keep scrolling down, again, everything is just customer, again, customer related, customer related. So what you have to do is just basically copy everything that's customer related and then paste it down here, again, under the to-do list, and just change everything to, instead of customer manager or customer, change it to product manager and so on. Now just be sure that you copy and paste everything from up here, you know, accordingly. You don't need to copy this part because this part is shared for the entire page. But, you know, copy this because that has to do with customer. So copy that and then paste it at the somewhere at the bottom of the page. And then also copy this and then paste it at the bottom of the page, and then start modifying, you know, customer manager, make it product manager, customer search, make it product search, customer manager, make it product manager. And this also, you can take a snapshot of this and just copy it as is, because you need to do a lot of changes in this section. Okay. First of all, the select statement is completely different from the customer select statement. So just basically look at this, I guess, look at this here and just copy it as is into your code. So I modified the select statement. I modified the parameter name here as well. I modified, you know, instead of customer search result, made it product search result. And then I also modified these three values here because I'm dealing with a product ID, name, and product number, as opposed to whatever customer has. I think it had name, last name, first name, and something else. And also make sure that these data types are correct or according to whatever these columns are. Remember, product ID is int, name is string, product name is also string. And then give it the correct column name as it appears in the database. So I just, for simplicity purposes, I just made the variable name equal to the same as the column name, so I don't confuse myself. All right, but just make sure also here, partial product name. Remember, this is the one that we saw in the other file, so make sure that this matches the other one. Okay, so that's for search controller. And let's see. Okay, so this is divided into A and B because it says, you know, get the customer method and then do the product search, which I've already done here. I just did it, you know, all in one lump sum. So here's the first step. Okay, the customer method now is a product method, and then this is the second step, which is the product search model. Okay, which is part B here, product search model. All right, so that's step number 3. Step number 4 now is asking us to create a product view, and basically to do that we need to edit the view search products.cs HTML page, and again it's a copy paste from the customer.cs HTML page. So go back to here, the view search, and here's the product CS HTML page. I would first open up the customer CS HTML page and copy everything starting from H2. So copy all this all the way down to the bottom. All right, copy that, and then go to the product CS HTML page and just right under this to do thing, paste what we just copied a moment ago. All right, now here just make sure that you modify again where you see customer, make it product. All right, for the model dot, make sure that it's, you know, partial product name or whatever you called it before, but it should be partial product name to be consistent. And I also changed some of the text or the verbiage that's going to appear on our web page, and again change everything from customer to product. Here are the headers of your table. Again, I made it product ID and name, and then down here I also changed the results to use product ID and name instead of the last name, first name, or whatever was, tied to the customer before. So just make sure that you just make all these updates. Okay, and I think that's pretty much the end of our instructions. Yep, now it just talks about, what MVC is. So now the moment of truth. We're going to run this application after all the changes have been done. All right, so I'm going to log in first as, well, we've seen customer. I'm going to log in now as product. And again, I said that the password is going to be product. I hope I spelled it correctly. Okay, if everything is correct, then it logs me in. I'll update that for now. So now, because I log in as the product user, all I see is home, search product, and log out. Okay, so that's one check to make sure that the application is working correctly. Then I'm going to click on search products, and here you can also see that I have some updated information that is different than the customer search, and also you see here product search and not customer search. Here you see product name instead of customer name, and here you see product name also instead of customer name. So I'm going to type, I know that there's a product that's called Blade, so I'm going to do BLA, okay, and then I'm going to submit to search for it. And again, if it works correctly, it's going to come back with this. Okay, we're going to come back with some sort of results. I know there's also a few products that start with CHA, and I'm going to do submit, and then I get back these results. Okay, so now you know that the product side of the application is working. And to also verify other things, you can log out, and I'm going to log in as admin. Now admin, if you remember, has access to both customer and products. So now in the navigation, I see both of them. So I've tested products already. Let's test search just again. I'm sorry, let's test customers again. So last name customer, Smith again, or SMI only, and submit, and now we get Smith again. Okay, so that's pretty much the assignment for Module 4. Again, it's a lot of steps, but again, just follow the instructions, download the code first, make the update to the SQL table, and just watch this video many times as you like, just if you want to go over some stuff or something's not working. And if you have any questions about any of these parts, please do email me. I'll be more than happy to help out. Thank you for watching, and I'll be seeing you in class. Take care, everyone, and bye for now.